All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the show today. I've got a very special guest, the one and only Jeremy Roenick. JR, how the heck are you, buddy?
What's going on, Joe? Love being on No Filter. Love, especially in the summertime. Lots going on. NHL draft finals just finished. We
Yeah.
just watched an epic U.S. Open where I thought Ricky Fowler was going to win. A lot of good sports going on. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. And actually, baseball is somewhat interesting this year as well. We got lots happening there. We got Hank Haney's actually doing his podcast right now. We got Burnsy and the Thrill talking baseball. So you're right. Yeah, we're in the middle of summer, but there's lots going on, and the whole NFL stuff is going to start soon. NBA is going to be quiet for a while, but not that interested in basketball. But
No,
some people are.
No basketball. No basketball. No basketball.
No basketball. So hey, JR, I got to tell you something, buddy. First of all, I know you've been super busy. Tell us a little bit about this whiskey company you started, and where we can find the product. Like, I'm hearing so many people talking about it. There's a big buzz around it. I know you've been super busy, getting out there and getting the word out.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and being in the liquor business is not easy. There's no question about it, with all the rules and regulations and all the competition that's out there. But we started a chocolate whiskey and a chocolate orange whiskey a couple of years back. And actually, we launched in August. And we have just been killing it in terms of our sales. And it's right now, it's only online. It's only available online, direct to consumer. You can go to whiskeyinthewild.com, and we deliver it right to your house. And you have to be there to get it. You have to be over 18 or over 21 to get it. So let's make sure you young kids don't order it and get it at home. But it is without a doubt. It is without a doubt one of the most unbelievable drinking experiences you've ever had. I don't care whether you like whiskey or whether you don't like whiskey. You are going to have an unbelievable experience drinking whiskey in the wild, whether it's pre-dinner, after dinner, sitting by the fire, on a camping trip, or just we have a flask that's attached to the bottle.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. That
take it with you. Take it with you. That's our motto. Take it with you. Never leave home without it. And it's an amazing experience. So we're very excited. Yeah,
all right. Well, I put the name in the chat. There's some guys that are saying hi to you. I know you're driving. JR, Stephen Lucas says hi. John Duffin, JD says hi. The Penguin AZ up in Arizona. So we got a bunch. Trevor Harris is on there. So we got lots of cool guys. Oops.
Yeah,
JR.
I see that.
Okay.
You
switched to the app. There you go. We lose your video when you do that, but
there we go.
There we go. Yeah, we want to see your lovely face again. And then
I'm back.
So last week, JR, we asked you to give us your thoughts on the Stanley Cup Finals. The Vegas Knights beat the Florida Panthers, and you gave us your thoughts about how tough hockey players are. You mentioned guys playing with broken sternums and separated shoulders, right? And just, not complaining and getting out there, comparing it to some NBA players and soccer players. You went nuts on social media. We got 400,000 impressions of your video, which was awesome. So, and we've been actually getting quite a social presence on Instagram, on TikTok of all places. But your Twitter engagement was through the roof. So thanks for that. Following on that,
it's going to be great when I get back and I start my new show on No Filter come new hockey season, and I think we'll be able to announce it pretty soon. But I'm going to have a great host, an ex-NHL referee who we will talk about later. So it's going to be me and a referee, which I don't think there are any podcasts out there that I know of that have a super goal scorer and a referee, especially two that went after each other as much as I went after the refs, and this ref went after us. So I'd like to know what people think of the name, Joe. I know I did this by you, but I had a great idea of a show called Snipes and Stripes, which kind of tells a little bit the whole story about everything.
Yeah, it's like, and for those of you who don't know, obviously JR was known as Snipes when he played. I love Snipes and Stripes. I actually ran it by a few people, overwhelmingly positive. So, and then when you're ready to announce the guest himself, he's fabulous as well. I've had a chance to talk to him a few times. That's going to be a fabulous show, actually. So really pumped that you're going to be launching that. And that's going to be in September, right, JR?
Yeah, that'll be end of September, right before the season starts, so we can get ready for the season. Yep.
Love it. Okay, that's awesome. All right, so JR, let's jump. I want to start off with the NHL awards. I'm a huge hockey fan. I absolutely love everything about the NHL. I always have, being growing in Montreal. I just came back from Montreal last week. Huge buzz on the draft that's happening tomorrow. So I put the TV on, and the show's in Nashville. And Jesus, anyway, it was the most painful thing to watch on earth, man. Like, honest to God, like, it was so bad I almost went to CNN. It was so bad. Like, it was, like, I don't know how they could screw up a talent. Like, you got a couple of great stars. Marc Messier, announcing the Marc Messier Award. You've got Connor Bedard, who we're going to talk about in a minute, was there. What is up with the NHL? It was so painful to watch. Did you have a chance did you need something to put you to sleep last night? It was so tough to watch.
No, I was not going to put myself through the pain and agony, knowing that the show was going to be extremely corny, probably have a lot of dull gags, trying to make people laugh or get interested. But to me, it's too fuddy-duddy. I think the NHL tries so hard.
Yeah.
They try so hard to make people laugh and to make people entertained when it's really not that hard. You have a great product on the ice. NHL has an amazing product. They really have great personalities. They just got to let these guys show their personalities, because as soon as somebody shows a personality, they get ridiculed, or they get, they start getting kind of pushed to the side, or at least, less respected, because they put themselves, so they think, ahead of the team, or that they can have a personality, they can have a voice, or they can complain and really say the truth and complain about certain things that they see. That goes against what the NHL wants in their players. They want everybody to walk the straight line, talk the same, be the same type of player. The NHL has really good people. They do. They have great kids, great guys. They, for the most part, they are very clean in terms of their, how they are in society. They follow the law. Not too often you see NHL guys getting arrested or doing things that are stupid. It happens, but not like you see in the other sports, But anyway, I didn't watch. I saved myself. I ever since I left television, I hear people tell me that television is missing me, but I can't bear to watch it.
I just, it just makes me feel good about the potential of No Filter when you see stuff like that. I'll give you, like, the worst scene for me was they had Connor Bedard talking to these three guys who were, trying to be funny. They're in Nashville, so they're all wearing, cowboy hats.
By the way, did you see Catherine Tappan ask Connor Bedard how his first season was? After your first season in the NHL, what were your highlights? Like, are you shitting me?
I know.
Come on. Like, you got to come on. Like, you're interviewing the next the next best thing since Connor McDavid, who's going to go number one. And you're not ready for an interview, and you ask him how his first season was, and he's up for the Calder Trophy. That's not good, man.
I know you're friends. I wasn't going to bring that up.
Hold on. And by the way, that surprises me too, because Catherine is very, very meticulous and very prepared and knowledgeable, and she must have had a long day of travel that day, because she really dropped the bomb on Connor Bedard playing in his first season. That was embarrassing on television.
That was embarrassing. And almost, I'd say more embarrassing than that, they get Bedard talking to these three. First of all, Bedard doesn't belong there. It's the NHL awards. It's for what you did as an NHL player last year. Like I get that they want to pump this kid up, but like he doesn't belong there. The draft is tomorrow, right? But anyway, they get him up there. They gave him some bullshit award, and they give him this cowboy hat with the strings underneath, and he looked like Woody from Toy Story. It was like, if I'm the guy's consultant, I thought, what the fuck is that, right? And so, Henry, you're there. You got to find that clip, buddy. Our social media guy, Henry Markin, is doing a great freaking job. We got to find that picture of Connor McDavid with the freaking hat.
Again, talking about being corny. Like,
it was horrible.
Just because you're in Nashville, don't put a cowboy hat on him and embarrass him. Like maybe he doesn't like cowboy hats. Maybe he hates country music. I don't know, but don't put him in that situation. Starting his professional career. What a way to get ridiculed when you get to your team the first day.
So fucking painful, man. So painful. The guy lost his, freaking man card. So right off the top, and I think the kid's pretty good. He's well trained and all that, but he's put in these terrible situations. Anyway, 3 awards I wanted to talk to you about. The first one, Connor McDavid, 4th Hart Trophy, MVP of the National Hockey League, which is absolutely incredible. Obviously, he's the greatest player in the NHL right now. Like, I don't think that's debatable. Where do you rank him all time? Like, would you put him, next to a Gretzky, next to a Lemieux, Ovechkin, who's right up there? Like, where do you rank him in the top 5 in all-time greatness?
Well, you can't compare him with Gretzky and Lemieux in greatness yet because he's still playing. He's only five or 6 years into the league. But 4 Hart trophies. The fact that he scored 152, 153 points in this day and age where everybody's fast, everybody's big, everybody's strong, everybody's talented, everybody can shoot the puck, everybody can skate. The goaltenders are big, the goaltenders are talented, the goaltenders can move, the goaltenders are athletic, they're flexible, they got big pads. And he still put up 152 points. Now, granted, he has a great player with him with Draisaitl.
Yeah.
But I believe that McDavid, 1, deserved the Hart Trophy without question, but 2, that he is the most talented person ever to be on 2 blades.
Wow.
I have never seen anyone be able to do anything on 2 blades the way that this guy does. The speed that he does it at, the accuracy that he does it at, the absolute precision and beauty that he does it at, and his timing is impeccable. And I would not want to be a defenseman in the National Hockey League when Connor McDavid is on the ice, because you want to talk about embarrassing at the nth degree. That's what happens. So good for Connor McDavid. He's great for the National Hockey League. By the way, he is a phenomenal person.
Nice.
He is a great guy. He carries the legacy of Gretzky, Mario, Sidney Crosby with the way that he personifies himself, the way he carries himself, the way he represents the league, and I just think it's great. And I'm proud of Matthew Tkachuk for being there.
Yeah.
For Pasta being there. Those 3 deserve to be up there, but no question, Connor Bedard was the ultimate choice.
You mean Connor McDavid?
I mean Connor McDavid. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. All right. Hey, let's switch gears now. Speaking about guys with incredible seasons, how about Erik Karlsson with the San Jose Sharks, who played in San Jose towards the latter part of your career, wins the Norris Trophy for the top defenseman in the league with a pretty tough, pretty shitty team. Let's call it spade a spade. The Sharks suck this year.
Terrible.
But he got over 100 points. Hasn't happened in forever, 10, 12 years or so. Where do you rank Karlsson's performance this year relative to what McDavid did? Like, you get a guy who scores over 100 points as a defenseman on a crappy team. Is it as good an accomplishment as McDavid scoring over 150 points?
It's pretty close. That accomplishment is almost comparable to what Connor McDavid is, because when was the last time that happened? Back in 1994 or 93 with Paul Coffey was the last defenseman to score 100 points. So you take a look at that. That shows you how hard it is. And we've had some great defensemen in the league. We had Roman Josi, we have had Hedman, we've had Makar. I mean, you can go on and on about how many great defensemen have been, and nobody's been
Yeah.
able to crack that 100-point. So good for Carlson. I think he really put himself in a good position because he doesn't want to be traded. He wants to be traded to a Stanley Cup contending team. And I think that's a perfect opportunity right now for San Jose to unleash a little bit of salary cap, maybe get some good players back in return for him, maybe get a couple draft picks in for a very, very good defenseman that still has a couple really good years on him. But you got to take your hat off to Erik Karlsson, especially after some of the injury seasons that he's been going through. And to do it on a team like San Jose, who was awful this year, shows you how unbelievable of a player Erik Karlsson is and what unbelievable of a season he had this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I absolutely agree with you, JR, that, San Jose is not going to win the cup anytime soon. They got to trade the guy, right? I didn't like them signing him to begin with and getting rid of Joe, Pavelski.
Well, I think that was Joe. I think that was the start of their demise. Because
yeah, I agree with that.
When they did sign Erik Karlsson to that big contract, they alienated Burns and they alienated Joe Pavelski. Now, those are two huge components to your team. Now, granted, Burns stayed for a little while, but Joe Pavelski had to leave that season because of the contract that Erik Karlsson had to sign. So that being said, look what Joe Pavelski has done over the last 3 or 4 years in Dallas. He's been, again, the ultimate goal scorer, ultimate competitor, the ultimate leader, and is right now the leading goal scorer, tied with Ovechkin in playoff goals, currently playing in the National Hockey League. Nobody except Alex Ovechkin has as many goals in the playoffs as Joe Pavelski. So that hurt San Jose big time with that contract.
Yeah, I can't believe they traded the heart and soul of that team, honestly. And I had season tickets for the Sharks for 3 years in a row, and I did not renew them when they got rid of Pavelski. I thought, you're crazy. You're absolutely not. It reminded me of the Canadians trading Chelios for Denis Savard to Chicago. Remember, back in the day, right?
That was a great trade. That was a great trade.
I'm sure you like that.
For us.
For you, yeah.
Yeah, I love getting Chelly. Yeah. Turns out to be one of my best friends in the world. Yep.
Yeah, I saw a picture of you and Chelly actually just last week, right, on social media. I saw that you guys were together. But,
me, Chelly.
Yeah, I hated that.
Eddie and I were.
Sorry, go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, Chelly, Eddie, and I were together in Winnipeg doing an event for the JCC in Winnipeg for 1,200 people, and we lit up the room for about an hour of stories. It was great.
Yeah, that's all. I ran into Chelios actually at the Sochi Olympics. I was working for Avaya. We were providing the telecom stuff, and so we were there with some customers, and he's just walking in the village, in the Olympic Village, and I'm like, "Hey, you're Chris Chelios." He's like, "Yeah." Nice guy. I took a picture of me. I told him, why did we trade you? I can't believe that. I was there with my son David. Yeah, super nice guy. So hey, let's go on. The last award I want to talk about is the Vezina, which of course goes to the top goalie of the NHL, and that went to Ullman of the Boston Bruins.
Ullmark, yep.
Ullmark, 60 games winner. Boston was the only team that had a goalie. Sorry, that he won 40 games. Only team that had a goalie that won 40 and 20. Swayman won 20 himself, right, as a backup goalie, which is insane.
Yep.
But has an incredible season. Wins the Vezina, which is great for him. But they don't dress the guy for Game 7 during the playoffs. So what does that tell you about his future with Boston? And do the Bruins not have confidence in him? Was it a ballsy move by their coach to sit their number one goalie and the Vezina winner?
There's a couple. There could be a couple of reasons. I think number one, they're saying that he could have been injured. I don't know how he could have been injured, or what was wrong with him, or whether he had something nagging or something maybe a little bit more painful. But I will tell you, I think he lost the confidence of the team in Game 5 in overtime when he comes out to try to play the puck behind the net and totally misjudges his teammates, misjudges what to do with the puck, and kind of panicked and threw the puck blind behind him, right past his own defenseman, which led to Matthew Tkachuk scoring in overtime, which gave the Florida Panthers life. And you know you can't do that, especially with as much pressure as the Boston Bruins had this year, with winning 65 games, 3 more than the record that was set by Tampa, and I believe it was maybe Detroit or Pittsburgh. I don't know who's at 52 with Tampa. However, you can't blow a lead like that at home in overtime and make a mistake like Ullmark did. And it was a bench buster. Everybody on that bench went, "Oh fuck." We just let this team back into the series because now we have to go back to Florida and we have to play in that shit weather, with hot conditions to a team that now feels that they can win. And then they go back into Florida and Ullmark plays again, and he granted his team played so bad in front of him. His defense probably played the worst game as a crew in Game 6. And Ullmark lets in 6 goals. But you have to make some of these saves, right? In the playoffs, it's up to a goaltender to bail out your defense when they're playing bad. Make that big save. If you're a Vezina Trophy winner, you got to make a big save to get your team that win.
Yeah.
He did not do it. So they had to go to Swayman to see if they can kind of change the mentality in the locker room, change the mentality on the bench, because they know Swayman could do it, because they know he's a great goaltender. He proved it in the regular season. But the only problem was now they had major pressure in Game 7.
Yeah.
Now they had a team that believed they can win. Their hands tighten up. They have a absolute chance to win, leading by 1 goal, less than a minute left. And unfortunately, Jeremy Swayman couldn't make a save either. So, no, you can't, and they lose in overtime. So, no, you can't blame the goaltenders because it is a team game. But I do believe that the demise of the Boston Bruins started with the goaltender mistake, and it ended with the goaltenders not being able to make that key save that they needed, that maybe a Vasilevsky would have made, or maybe a Tuukka Rask would have made, or somebody of that nature. But it's a learning experience. So good for him. Good for Ullmark for winning the Vezina. But I think he will say he's still pretty disappointed in the year in itself.
And there's goalies that are known for being great regular season goalies, and their game doesn't translate in the playoffs, right? That they can't win those big games. We talked about this earlier, JR. You got to win 16 games to win the Stanley Cup. Every team that's won the Stanley Cup, there's a goalie that won you 1, 2, maybe 3 games that you didn't deserve to win, right? You got outplayed, you got outshot by 20 shots, and kid stands on his head. Right?
By the way, it's a great saying, because with Tampa's run over the last 3 years, how many games did Vasilevsky win by himself?
Oh, absolutely.
Literally stole games. And I do agree with you. I mean, Ullmark has not been in the game long enough and has had enough experience to be known as a playoff sturdy guy. Now, he hasn't started off very well with his performance in this year's playoffs, but granted, their team and him probably had the most pressure of any team going into the playoffs in a lot of years since Tampa lost to Columbus after their 62-win season. So I was a little heartbroken because I do love Boston because it is my hometown, but I was so proud of Matthew Tkachuk and how he raised his team to greater heights to make a run through the playoffs like they did.
Yeah. So let's go on to a different topic now, JR. There's been a couple of big trades going into the draft already. JD is asking, what's the best play for the Flyers? Is it better to stockpile their draft picks, unload more players? Do they rebuild? They did make a big trade. They traded Hayes to the Blues, and the Flyers are retaining 50% of his salary. I think his cap hit is $7.5 million. What are your thoughts on? And there's a few other trades as well. Trev's mentioning Ivan Provorov trade. what are you thinking? Are the Flyers in rebuild mode? And what do they have? I think they have the 6th overall pick, right? This year, are they picking behind the Habs this year?
Yeah, I believe they are. And Danny Briere is going to do a great job there. He's a very smart hockey man. I believe Ken Jones is going to do a good job. He's going to bring in some real quality people. There needs to be a mentality change in Philly, because I think they got away from what Philly means on the ice.
Right.
When you think of the Philadelphia Flyers, what's the first thing you think of?
I think of Bobby Clark with his 2 front teeth missing.
Yep. I think Broad Street Bullies, right?
I think Broad Street Bullies, absolutely. I think Perrant Nets. I mean, yeah, totally. Eric Lindros, Trevor Sand, right?
Exactly. The Legion of Doom line, right? What the team that we had in 2004, which is the best team that I have ever been on, with myself, Keith Primo, Mark Recchi, Tony Monte, Alex Jamnoff, Jason, Justin Williams. I mean, just an absolute plethora of talent and guys that can play tough. Sammy Kapanen, one of the toughest pound-for-pound guys ever. So Philly has lost that mentality of being a tough place to play in, because these guys have come in and have played soft. I think they have not played with an edge. I think they have folded under some pressure, and I think they do need to rebuild. In getting rid of Hayes, they freed up some cap space. Maybe to sign a high-end free agent, because Philly is a good place to go play, and there are players that are free agents that would be very up to going to Philly. But I do think that they need to rebuild through the draft, because they don't have much in the minors, and it's going to be a long rebuild if they don't get any good high-end free agents here in the next 2 years to try to change that mentality. But you still have to be hard to play against. Look at what the Florida Panthers did. Florida Panthers have disappointed over the last 2 years. They were the number 1 team in the league, President's Cup trophy winners, and they just folded and faded because they didn't play tough. They played wishy-washy hockey, and then Matthew Tkachuk gets there. He changes the mentality of the team. He plays with an edge. He draws everybody into playing with an edge. Like, look at how that team played. Matthew Tkachuk was in people's faces barking. You had Sam Bennett with Verhaeghe. You had, just a plethora of guys in that team that played with an edge. And that's what Matthew Tkachuk brought to that team. And look what happened to him. They won hockey games. And Philadelphia Flyers have to get back to the mentality that made the Philadelphia Flyers who they were, and that is tough, mean, just absolute bruising hockey.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more. Matthew Tkachuk changed the face of that franchise, because Florida's had talent for a number of years, right? They've had great goaltending,
probably the most talent.
Huberdeau, like on paper, you'd expect these guys to go out. Never got anywhere in the playoffs, and then you get a guy like Tkachuk who just carried that team. He was the spirit of that team, right?
The problem was they didn't have a player, and then you can look at Huberdeau, and people can say, okay, well, he was not the person that could that will challenge people, that will say something, that will drag people into a game. Barkov, who is a Finnish, is not a guy who's going to stand up and be that voice in the locker room that's going to call people out. So because of that, they didn't have anybody like that. This team was wishy-washy. They would show up for 3 games and they would disappear for 5. You didn't know what team was going to show up from one night to the next. But that didn't happen during the playoffs, and that's why they went from the 16th seed team, a team that barely made it because of Pittsburgh's absolute disgustingly awful debacle of a choke at the end of the season, losing to Chicago and Columbus, the 2 worst teams in the league, to miss the playoffs. And you know what Florida did? They got in and they took advantage of their opportunity.
And they wrote it.
Boy, did they entertain. Boy, did they entertain everybody.
Yeah, I really thought they were going to win it all, but I had no idea that they were that injured. And we found out after the fact, of course. The other big trade I want to talk about, there's been several. Toffoli got traded from Calgary to New Jersey. There's a few others that the guys mentioned. Taylor Hall got traded to Chicago. I don't want to talk about the Blackhawks and Bedard and then bringing a guy like Hall over, but Dubois from Winnipeg, I mean, looks like everybody wants to get traded out of Winnipeg. He just got moved to LA, and Dubois also signed an 8-year contract that will pay him, $75 million or something. What do you think about Dubois? And what do you think? Does he make a difference in LA? And does he help bring? That's another team that's been on the edge, right? Are they good enough? Does a Dubois acquisition, get them over the edge? Is he the Matthew Tkachuk that they need?
Well, let's just say I hope for Rob Blake's sake in signing an 8-year, $68 million deal for this kid. You have to hope that he's finally happy to play in a certain team.
Right.
Now, I don't know how you can't be happy coming out here to LA, where I am at right now, and knowing where he's going to live, because it's right there. It's literally where he's going to live is right. I mean, I am literally 300 yards from the practice arena. I know where Dubois is going to be living. I know where he's going to be skating. I know what kind of atmosphere this city is for hockey. I know how great the fans are. I know how great it is when you win here. Because Dubois has done nothing but fucking complain since he got into the league.
Yeah.
Okay. He wanted to leave Columbus because he didn't get along with Tortorella. Wah wah wah. Then he didn't want to be in Winnipeg because Winnipeg's too cold, and I don't want to be up here because it's too small of a building. And it's not a big hockey market for me. And wah wah wah. So you know what? Dubois better live up to his 8-year. $68 million contract that the LA Kings gave him, because he can be a difference maker. He is a very good player. He's got to show some consistency, and I think a lot of his lack of consistency is because he's done too much time bitching and crying about where he's playing and who he's playing for. So yeah. I hope for the Kings. I hope for the Kings' sake, because I'm a big Kings fan. I love the Kings. Yeah. I love Kopitar. I love everything about their team. And I hope for their sake that Dubois wises up and starts playing the way that he is capable of playing and enjoys playing hockey for the first time instead of bitching and whining.
Yeah, it's a fabulous market, and I can't think of two more diametrically opposed markets than Winnipeg and LA, right? Like, you're playing in a huge market. LA hockey fans are awesome. They're boisterous when the team's winning. They'll rally around him, and I haven't given up on the guy. Being a Habs fan, I was hoping he was going to sign with Montreal, but I don't know that Montreal is quite ready for him, right? But
he's a good player, Joe. He's a very good player, and you said he can be a difference maker. And LA needs one of those players, because LA, you saw last year, they could have been a team that could have made it a push.
Yeah.
So, with Kempe and Kopitar and a couple of other young studs that they have there still, Drew Doughty is still playing, high-end hockey. They have a lot more confidence in their goaltending. Dubois could be a very important piece to the Kings having another great year next year. But like I said, he's got to enjoy playing the game and be happy where he is, because he hasn't been happy so far in his career where he's been.
Yeah, we'll follow that one for sure, and I'm sure during your show that starts in September, you'll be following that side story for sure as well, JR. Let's jump onto the draft now for us unfortunate fans whose teams did not make the playoffs. And as you know, I'm a Habs fan. We had the draft lottery, and the number one draft pick goes to a city you know very well, original 6 team, the Chicago Blackhawks, and they're going to pick up a generational talent and Connor Bedard. It's going to be funny that the 2 top players in the NHL are going to be called Connor, right? Bedard and McDavid. But Connor Bedard, WHL, just a little background, the guy is absolutely killed it in his last eligible season. 70 odd goals in 40 games. Like, led the Canadian juniors to a gold. His skating skills are second to none. He's smaller in stature than Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid is it's incredible what he does for the size that he is. He reminds me more of like a Sidney Crosby type player, right? Smaller, great hands,
but he's lanky.
right?
Yeah, but he's lanky and skinny and very wiry, but he's strong as shit. So Connor McDavid is tall and strong, but not beefy, and which is probably works to his benefit. But you talk about the lottery, and by the way, I was extremely happy that Chicago won that lottery, and I know there's a lot of people out there that says, 16-4 all stayed in perfect position, but 1, 2, and 3 all switch to make sure that Chicago gets Connor Bedard, because God help Connor Bedard in the league if he goes to Columbus or goes to Anaheim, so they say. Yeah. That's what I was reading all over the social media, which, you know what, people have the right to say that because it does look a little fishy. If I was the National Hockey League, I would bring that bubble with all the balls zipping around that bubble and have that and then have that pick come out so everybody can see exactly who's getting what and when, and let those balls roll. Because in a day and age where nobody trusts anything anymore, whether it's sports, politics, people, banking systems, whatever the case may be, put it in front of the people so that they can see it. Okay? Don't leave anything for the guests or for the criticism. So that's what I'm going to say about the draft. But Connor Bedard for sure is a generational player. I am very excited to see how he does. I do think he's going to struggle a little bit because what you said, Joe, his size, he's only 5'10". I don't know how strong he is. He doesn't look that big. He is going to see a totally different level of play than he did in juniors. Whether he can handle it right away, he's going to get every opportunity. There's no way that Chicago is going to send him down. So he has to be mature enough to make sure that he can handle the pressure, that he can handle the workload, he can handle the star status that he's going to be under. But no question, this kid is one of the most unbelievable skaters, one of the best goal scorers, one of the best playmakers, one of the most exciting players that we've seen in a long time. But, I heard that he wasn't that great in the rookie camps or in the summer camps that he was playing against some other kids that were coming into the draft. Yeah. So that worries me a little bit. I'm going to root for him huge because he's in Chicago. Of course. I'm going to root for him huge because I love great players and great talent, and the National Hockey League needs players like him, and I need the Chicago Blackhawks to get back to respectability because over the last couple of years it's been pretty dismal.
Yeah, I think Bedard needs a couple of years to beef up. There's no doubt the kid's got the skill. As far as Chicago getting him as the number one pick, I blame the voting machines in Arizona, JR. They've been clearly manipulated.
Yeah, exactly. And, or Pennsylvania. Or Pennsylvania.
Those votes that came in at 3 a.m. that pushed Chicago over. At number 2, you got. So here's what's interesting. Number 2 seems a lock as well. Adam Fantilli. He's a power forward. He's playing in the NCAA, JR. He's playing hockey at the college level. He's 6'2", 195, two-way center. They're talking about this Fantilli kid being a surefire number 1 center. Anaheim is going to get a great guy. They've got Trevor Zegras down there. They've got some good young players that they've been drafting. I mean, Anaheim's got some talent. They're reminding me a little bit of like Edmonton, when they drafted Draisaitl and they had all the number 1 pick 4 years in a row or something. But they all of a sudden they got a good group of young talent. Fantilli could play this year. They say that he's going to play 1 more year in college and then jump to the NHL.
Well, we'll see. I'm sure Anaheim's going to put a lot of pressure on him because they need somebody like this.
Right.
And to make a decision like that is very important. You can always go back to school to finish your school, but if you get hurt in your last year of NCAA and then can't play in the National Hockey League, you're going to kick yourself. But right. I think that Anaheim pretty much dodged a bullet with this one and getting a player of size, stature, and can play the game at a high speed.
Right.
A guy that will be a very good NHL hockey player. I don't think there's going to be a question about that. So, as I'm sure not getting Bedard was disappointing to them, but they are getting a very good hockey player coming from NCAA, and that's what the NCAA is breeding right now. They're breeding very good hockey players. Yeah, it's a great
it's impressive
to come out of right now. Yeah.
At number 3, Columbus picks up. The mock drafts all agree that this will be the draft order. 4 centers will go in the first picks. Leo Carlson, who's a center who plays for Sweden in the SHL, and he's being modeled. They're comparing him to Anze Kopitar. A little bit like a Malkin type player. Not bad comparisons, by the way. They're saying that Leo Carlson is probably the guy who's most prepared to come in and play in the NHL in day one. But another big center, 6'3" Swede playing center.
That's all because the Swedish professional league is very good. The Swedish elite team, Swedish elite league, is extremely competitive. Very North American-like in the way that they play, very physical, very defensive-oriented, and they're obviously playing against adults. So this kid is definitely going to be more finely tuned. I'm just saying this in general as a whole because I do know the Swedish league or the Finnish league. But I can't tell you if this kid's any good because I have never even fucking heard of him. So I'm hoping he's good for Columbus's sake. Yes.
Yeah, the World Championship in Halifax this year, he had a really good showing, and apparently his stock rose at that event. At number 4, San Jose, another team you played for, JR. They're looking at Will Smith, and not the rapper Will Smith. Not the guy from Different Strokes.
Not the actor Will Smith.
Not the actor Will Smith.
I loved him in Men in Black.
I loved him in Bell. Exactly. Yeah, not the guy who went out and bitch slapped a comedian for making a joke about his wife. Yeah. Chris Rock jokes aside. So Will Smith is in the under 18 U.S. development program. So talk about like 4 kids that are being drafted from 4 very different places. But this U.S. program is generating incredible buzz and incredible talent. So USA Hockey, as you know, years ago, right, JR, made an investment in developing American-born talent. I know you've been involved with them indirectly or directly in the past. But Will Smith is basically, they're saying another kid who's got incredible talent and from the under 18 program. And the Sharks have time to develop a player like that. They can wait a few years before he makes it to the NHL. But I don't know if you know Will Smith specifically, but maybe a few comments on the U.S. development program.
Yeah, it's a great program, and my generation, we wanted to be professional athletes, professional hockey players because of the 1980 team, when the U.S. won the World Cup and won a silver medal in Olympics in 2002. That spurred another group of players that wanted to be professional hockey players. I mean, guys like Mike Modano, Chris Chelios, Keith Tkachuk, Tony Amonte, myself, John Leclerc, Billy Guerin, Brian Leach. I can go on and on. All these kids that are coming into the league right now idolized these U.S. players. And the National Development Program has done an amazing job of taking kids from different parts of the country and taking them away from home and putting them into families and putting them into strict hockey environments and train them properly, made sure they were fed right, make sure that they got the right facilities. And they have built, USA Hockey has built a world power again, because US is always at the top of the World Juniors. They're at the top of the Olympics now. They're doing great in terms of their growing of the game. And this kid, Will Smith, if he's anything from what they say he is, he might take a year or two to develop, but he's going to be a very, very consistent and strong player in the National Hockey League. That's very dependable, because that's what the National Development Program builds. They build very smart, very dependable hockey players that can play in any situation, and I'm sure Will Smith is no different.
Yeah, and then there's this other kid, Ryan Leonard, who's actually being compared to Tkachuk. And he's predicted as high as 6 to Arizona. Two-way hockey player, great shot, tough kid. So imagine having 2 players in the top 6 coming out of the U.S. National Development Program. That's crazy talk, right, from years ago. So that's impressive.
It shows you. Yep. Yeah. It shows you what the Americans are breeding right now and what they're pushing out in terms of their talent. And
Absolutely.
I think a lot has to do with the college program, MCAA also. So that being said, the Coyotes need something good to happen to them. I mean, you talk about a team that has been just absolutely smothered with bad opportunities, bad luck, bad decisions, bad management, bad ownership, bad planning for buildings. I feel bad for them because I lived there. I played for the Coyotes. I love the team, but they have just been decimated with just bad luck or bad decision making, and they need to make a really good choice in this first pick because coming up now with a year not knowing where Mr. Austin Matthews is going to want to play or whether he's going to re-sign in Toronto, I think the Arizona Coyotes have to make a push to create a team that's going to want to have players like Austin Matthews sign as free agents and want to come play for a team like that is going to be competitive and maybe at some point have a chance to win a Stanley Cup because it can happen. It doesn't matter where you are. You see what happened with Dallas. Dallas has won a cup. Anaheim's won a cup. Tampa's won a cup. Florida's won a cup. I mean, all these teams, Anaheim's won a cup. LA, all these teams in these southern belts have won cups, and you just had Vegas that just won a cup in a year. It can happen.
Crazy.
They just need to make a very good pick this year.
So Arizona's at 6 and number 5. I'm going to actually get ready for this, JR. Here we go. All right. And number 5, the Canadiens Montreal, the Montreal Canadiens, they can go one of 2 directions. So I just came back from Montreal, all kinds of crazy. That's all people talk about. They always talk about hockey. Formula One weekend, by the way, was crazy, but they still talk about the Habs all the time. So there's this kid in Russia called Matvey Michkov, who under any normal circumstance would go a close second to Connor Bedard, apparently. He's like the Russian equivalent of Connor Bedard. The kid's 18. He's an incredible player. I just looked this up, JR. He's under contract with the KHL in Sochi till the 25-26 season. So you got to wait 3 years before the kid can play in the NHL. But great talent. So that's option number 1 for the Habs. But another diminutive forward. In other words, he's a little shrimp. Another short stature kid. We got one of those. His name is Cole Caulfield, right? And then there's this big right-handed defenseman from the Swiss national team, David Reinbacher, who's a defenseman, who's a top 2D. I read another interesting fact. Never in the history of not since 2003 has there not been at least one defenseman go in the top 5, right? So defensemen get picked early. Typically, Reinbacher is almost certainly going to be number 1. So if you're the Habs, what do? Do you go take a risk, pick the kid from Sochi, wait 3 years till he comes, and then he joins Caulfield and Suzuki? Or do you start building out from the blue line out? Because obviously the Habs are in a rebuild right now.
Yeah, it's a scary pick, and I know when you have talent like that, but you don't know whether you're going to get him right away.
Right.
It's going to become A, will he ever come? B, will he get hurt while he's playing in the Russian league? Or C, can the NHL buy him out of that Russian league, that KHL contract, and try to convince him or coax him away to come into Montreal? There are too many, I think, variables that go with this player to be picked this early. And the Habs cannot afford to screw this one up. The Habs have not been the same since Carey Price went down and Weber got hurt and had to leave the bench.
Right.
So for me, a right-handed, big, strong defenseman is always, especially a right-handed defenseman, is always needed and always wanted and comes in high priority in the National Hockey League. If you can get a kid like this that's coming out of the Swedish League, I've already talked about the Swedish League and how good of players that it feeds out. I mean, look at Rasmussen, who in Buffalo. Look at Hedman. Look at these guys that have come out of the Swedish League that are absolutely phenomenal, defensemen.
Yeah.
If I were the Habs, I would go with the big, strong righty defenseman and build from the back end and get him into the mix right now, rather than taking a chance on a guy who might be there in 3 years, but it's a crapshoot.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see anyone who goes for this kid, who goes Michkov. And I've seen some, there's one mock draft I'm looking at right now that has him dropping to 7 to Philadelphia. Philly is trading players and they're rebuilding in the long term. Maybe that's the way to go. I don't imagine, though, if you're going back to the Broad Street Bullies and you want to rebuild the character of the Philadelphia Flyers, that you pick a 5'7" Russian kid who can skate, right? Like, that's not the image of rebuilding that image, right? I don't see it.
Well, it'd be crazy because they gave up a pretty big Russian defenseman in Provorov.
Exactly.
To switch over to a Russian forward that's that's probably not built in the Philadelphia mentality. So I would have to think Philly is deciding on what Montreal is going to do is going to have a big impact on what Philly is going to do, unless their scouting staff has little blue diamond in the rough that nobody's talking about. But
yeah. So JR, we're not going to go through the entire
pick from picks.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to get fun from 5-4. I think.
6.
Yeah, like it'll be interesting to see what happens. And then, are there going to be some possible trades? Can we see the Habs or the Flyers try to move up to go get someone that they want? Could some of the teams like Arizona, say, hey, I'm rebuilding. I'll trade for a lower pick down the line and a player who can play now. So I think there's going to be a lot of activity. There's been quite a bit of trades right now.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening this year because the top 10 picks, you're going to get a really good player, and it's going to be really hard for anybody that is higher than 10 to crack into the top 6 or top 5 picks. The players are just too good, and the teams know that they're going to get quality players that will probably play relatively soon. So I can't see too much movement in terms of the trades and placements.
Cool. All right, JR. Hey, if you're good on time, there's a few guys that hit the knock button. We'll let a few guys on and ask a few questions. Are you good for that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, guys.
I'm sitting in traffic, so this is perfect.
All right. So, if you want to join the stream, go ahead and hit that knock button. I'm going to let Trev, you were on first. So, Trevor is our first guest. I think you've spoken to Trevor before. And I know you knocked a while ago, Trev, so hopefully you're still there. There he is. All right.
There he is.
I'm in Florida now these days.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I produce for the Panthers and stuff and do some sports radio. All right, I'll cut to the chase. Would you, if you're the Flyers at number 7, would you go for the best available forward or would you go for the number 1 D-man?
I'm going for the best available forward.
Okay.
Without question.
There've been talks of both, really. I think they need a forward and they need a D-man so badly because it's just been brutal.
Yeah, they do need a D-man, but again, you start with a goaltender, and I still believe that the Flyers have very good goaltending. I really do, and I don't think he had much support last year. They need more goals. They need goal scoring. Konechny is not the guy that's going to be their guy that's going to fill the net. Hayes is good, but he's gone now. They need somebody that is going to fill the net and then worry about keeping it out afterwards. So to me, they need to go offensive.
they really need that, and they have Sean Couturier hasn't played in a year, which I don't know what's going to happen at all. They've
Again, a guy that's not going to fill the net. He's more of a he's more of a utility guy. He's a penalty killer. He's he has been playing second line, which, by the way, is Couturier a third line player because he is a very good defensive player. Can he handle being in that role of having to produce goals? Not sure that is the case. And Van Riemsdyk is a second time around. I don't see Van Riemsdyk being a guy that everybody's going to be excited about in terms of watching and relying on scoring goals. So Flyers need to start finding some guys that fill the net.
The only good thing about the Flyers this year, they come to Florida in February and March. So that's the only thing I'm happy about.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Trev.
And Danny and Trust. JR, I can't wait for your show. I'm down here in Deerfield Beach working at QAM. I saw Tony last 2 weekends ago, so it's great to see you back on here.
Yeah, JR's been busy, man. He's been busy. He's the busiest guy I know. He's got so many different things on the plate right now. So it's always an honor.
Yeah. I'm actually about to buy that whiskey so I can have it in my collection already.
That a boy, Trevor. Hey, by the way, I thank you for always supporting me and being on the show and contributing to the show. And when I'm down in Florida, we got to make sure we can connect.
Definitely. I am the only Flyer fan that still rocks your jersey, especially on the weekend. I got a lot of shit from people. I told everyone he's the realest hockey guy in the world anyways. He's the coolest man ever. We'll link up sometime. I'll throw you my number for Joe.
All right, Trev. Thanks, buddy.
Please do.
All right, thanks for joining, bud. Cool. All right, JR, listen, I'm going to be heading to Bandon Dunes next week. Actually, tomorrow till Saturday. I'm playing. Hey, I've never played. I can't wait. We're playing a lot of golf in 4 days, but I'll be back Saturday, and then you're here next week, right? You're here in the Bay Area.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
I'm in the Bay Area, so maybe we can
excellent. Yeah, let's definitely do that.
Hey,
and Steve Sky's there. What's up, Luke?
Hey, not much.
Big Luke's.
How are you guys?
Good, buddy.
Hey,
Good.
Luke's, what's going on, buddy? Always good to see you, my friend.
About this card.
That's an oldie.
Story about this card, this 1990 Bowman.
Okay, so you know how I know it's a rookie card? Because I'm carrying a Louisville. I'm carrying a white Louisville stick, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so when I came out of junior in 1989, in junior, I had the Quebec Major Junior League never allowed or wouldn't allow aluminum sticks.
Right.
You can only use a wood stick, and you had to wear a neck guard. Okay, so for whatever reason that Quebec League wanted to be very pussy-ish and make us wear face masks and throat guards and not use aluminum sticks. So when I did get called up to the Blackhawks, I was still using that Louisville white wood stick at the time. And that's how you know that it's a rookie card, because of the stick that I was using.
Yep.
And right after that season, I ditched that and went to the Easton aluminum and started filling the net up with those Easton aluminum sticks, which you will see in a lot of different cards, whether it was a blue one, whether it was a gold one. But, yeah, that's a cool card. That's a good card.
That's a great story, JR. Like I'm thinking that about the wooden sticks. Like back in the day, the Sherwoods and the Victoriavilles. I mean, obviously, Victoriaville stick was made in Victoriaville, Quebec, and weren't the Sherwoods made in Sherbrooke, Quebec? So they're trying to protect their freaking wooden stick market. Is that?
Yeah, probably. Good point. I never thought about that. I thought they were just afraid that everybody's going to get hurt, with an aluminum stick, or that they was going to break and cost too much for the league.
Right.
And, they didn't want everybody to use it, but I was in the Quebec League at the wrong time due to full face masks and neck guards.
Wow. Who did you play for in Quebec, Jared?
Played for the Hull Olympics. It's
the Hull
Olympics. Yeah.
Right. And the best part of the Hull Olympics is how close Hull is to Montreal.
well, Hull was a lot closer to Ottawa, so we had a lot of good times in Ottawa too, right next to it. So
that's true. They're right across the river there. Steve,
thanks for bringing up that card, Steve. That's pretty cool.
That's awesome, buddy. Yeah. Any questions for JR, buddy?
Basically, what do you think with, all the changes are coming around with the NHL, how because I started watching PK's Places with my dad. What are your thoughts with PK doing that, exploring all that history of hockey?
Well, the league is trying to do as much as they possibly can to keep watching hockey on television exciting. Whether it's changing the rules, whether it's trying to get more flavor or entertainment on the pregame shows, on the intermission shows. I think they try hard. They try a little bit too hard to try to change the game or try to do things that are going to bring more fans in. The fans love the game, and I think more of the fans love the tradition of the game. And they have to let the game be itself. And if you start tweaking it too much, start changing rules too much, start doing things that are going to slow play down, that are going to take people out of their comfort zones in terms of players, not allow players to be themselves or be their free flowing entertaining selves. I think they're only going to hurt themselves. So sometimes the league just has to protect themselves and get the fuck out of the way.
Like compared to MLB pitch clock to whatever hockey does, like MLB pitch clock is a no-go with a lot of people. We just don't want to see that in hockey type thing.
You can't listen. There's one thing that hockey fans love, and that's the history of the game. I do think that the large majority of fans love the history of what the National Hockey League is, and I think the league has made a very good decision in changing a few rules of the game. I do believe they've gone a little bit too far with penalties, like the slashing of like touching somebody's hand, and it's a penalty. I mean, just such a bullshit baby call that does allow the best players to be the best players. Like the fact that Connor McDavid, you can't touch Connor McDavid's hand with a stick, allows him to go into all these tight areas and not have his hands chopped off or slashed or hooked, is a big benefit for him. Because Steve, when I played back in the 90s, they used to hook, hold, slash, grab, mug, everything you could possibly do under the sun, and it was hard as shit to get past some of these guys. Although they didn't skate as well as they do now, so it was a little different story. But good question.
Yeah. Good stuff.
And also, when I was watching the PK's Places, they showed like when Fox introduced that laser puck,
Oh yeah, I remember that.
They talked about that, and then they
the worst idea. The laser puck was the worst idea in sports history, and I'm sure whoever came up with that idea of the blue laser puck is not working for the National Hockey League anymore.
Yeah, I still remember I was living in Toronto at the time when they came out with that, and I was talking to a buddy of mine. We're having lunch, and he's smoking a DeMaurier. I still remember this, drinking a Molson X, and says, "Joe, what the fuck is wrong with Americans? They can't follow the puck. It's the little black thing on the white ice." That was like the best line ever. Yeah, but they try hard. They try hard. So, all right, buddy. Thanks for joining us, Steve. Thanks for ditching Grill and Birds.
That whiskey too, and then I'm currently back in school getting my degree in sports broadcasting.
All right, buddy. That's awesome.
Attaboy.
Way to hustle, Steve.
Buddy. Good luck.
Thanks, guy. Going. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Yep.
See you, buddy.
Cool. All right, JR. Well, listen, I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks for this has been fun. This could be another show. Driving with JR. We'll find another time. You got some windshield time. I hope you're not breaking any traffic laws, but right.
No, I am going the speed limit. I am staying away from everybody, and I'm sure there's people who don't believe in talking on the phone or all that shit when they're driving. You know what? too fucking bad because this was a lot of fun. We just had a lot of good content, and it's making my drive and traffic go a lot faster. So,
All right, buddy.
Suck it.
So hey, let's if you make it out to the Bay next week, give me a call. We'll I'll send you pictures from Bandon over the next couple of days. I'm pumped about my trip, and we'll have some fun. More than anything else, it's so wonderful to have you back on No Filter. I know how busy you've been, and congratulations on the whiskey launch. Can't wait to get my hands on it myself. And really pumped about your new show in September, buddy. So we'll be announcing that soon. And I have one more thing to mention to our folks here on No Filter. We have a new No Filter channel on a new TV station called Caffeine TV. It's an over-the-top smart TV. So No Filter channel stuff. Your show, JR, will be available on Caffeine TV, on Roku, on Chromecast for over-the-top as well, reaching tens of millions of households. The traditional mainstream media outlets are screwed. They're absolutely screwed. So there's 15,000 channels. They did. They did. So we've created a new distribution agreement with Caffeine TV. We're pumped about. We already have a bunch of shows up there. We just launched this week, so keep an eye out for that. And so awesome to have you back, buddy. Hope to catch you next week in the Bay.
Love it, Joe. Way to go, buddy. No filter all the way, pal.
Drive safe, brother. All right. Love you, JR.
Bye-bye.
See you, man. Take care.
Thanks for everybody for joining. Thanks for everybody for joining.
All right. Thanks, everyone.